Thanks for speaking to us. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Want to know your thoughts, especially on the first half and maybe where things went a little sideways in that half, and then the changes you made and how you thought the guys adjusted in the second half.
Yeah, the biggest issue for us in the first half was our impatience defensively. I mean, they have good concepts in possession, and they have a lot of players who are very comfortable on the ball. And we were kind of edging out to kind of press, but we weren't really pressing at times. And Raw was too high; he needed to be a little lower. So our two central midfielders were just so stretched out trying to get to things, and then our outside backs and our back line was stretched out trying to get to their wing backs. And that was the adjustment in the second half. Was we just needed to stay a little more connected and be a little more patient and choose our moments to press the ball more wisely. And the first half, we just kept getting ourselves stretched out, and they just were able to play through us and play behind us and play anywhere they wanted to, really. And then when you're stretched out on the defensive side and you recover the ball, you're not really in position to help each other out when you actually win the ball. So I felt like, one of the big differences between the first and second half was just we were more patient defensively. We were more calculated in the right moments when we were trying to recover balls, and we won a lot more balls in between the lines and not in sort of the midfield zone versus in near our goal. And I thought that led to us having, attacks from better areas. We had our fair share of looks inside of this game. I thought, not a ton, but we did have some really good looks. I think a red card nowadays is a tackle above the waist instead of below the waist and above the knee. But that's a sliding in and studs mid-thigh. So that one baffles me a little bit. There's some other calls inside of the game that baffle me. But ultimately, the game came down to a little bit of our impatience, I thought, in the first half, and then we got ourselves behind the game. And the second one that they scored, we should have fouled them at midfield and ended the play. We had the chance against the sideline to foul because we were stretched out and our center back was out of his position. And we need to commit a foul there and end the play and get everybody behind the ball, and we probably would have survived that situation.
With the changes you made in the second half, were those more reactionary to the first half, or in your mind, did you want to stretch those guys a little bit longer if you were trying to rotate?
Well, I had plans to get most of the guys, if not all the guys that I got on. I wanted to get them on to get something. A little bit of it was I felt like we needed to get a little bit quicker in the midfield, just in terms of covering ground and a little more density in the midfield, so we could work to recover things. Raw to me, he's still learning that position a little bit. And positionally, I thought, again, he was too high. So I brought Tyler in, who's a little more aware of the positional. And we still needed somebody to get behind, because even Raw was able to get behind them in the first half, which, created some moments for us. But defensively, I felt like was a little disconnected. In the second half, when we took Raw off, we still needed that guy to get behind, which Tyler can give us some of that. So that was the adjustment there. But was Tyler getting him in the spot was a little more comfortable than maybe Raw in some of those defensive decisions. And they put you into a lot of, they do a good job of putting you into a lot of decision making on the defensive side. And I thought in the first half we just had a hard time with it.
You guys seem to have particularly struggled with offense on the road, maybe offense for most of this year, but only one goal scored so far on the road. Yeah. What needs to be fixed in order to get that going?
Yeah, we didn't take some of the finishes. Danny had a really good look and hit it wide. We had a couple really good looks that we just need to finish those chances. But I really do think that, again, how we defend on the road and being a little bit more patient defensively will mean that we recover balls in better areas, which gives our attack more of a chance, I just think that will help us a lot in terms of where we recover balls, how much work we actually put in to recover the ball, all those things. We need to be more efficient defensively and recover balls better, which will help our attack. It will help us to start attacks from better areas. It'll help us to have more energy when we recover the ball and look to go forward. It'll give us a little bit of an attacking transition, because in the first half we were recovering most of the balls deep in our half, and by the time you recover the ball, you've got to break down 10 men. You've got to go almost the entire length of the field. It becomes an inefficient exercise on the attacking side. So it's a combination of just efficiency in front of the goal, but also I think efficiency on the defensive side, so that we have more. We're in better positions when we transition, and we have more energy, and we're in better spots when we are able to attack out of it. So for me, it starts on the defending side.
Thanks, Greg.
Next, we'll go to Damien.
Hey, Greg. When you go into a situation, you're gonna rotate the lineup. What goes into the thinking? Do you weigh running out the group that played the game before, even though you had travel, and then making the changes that you did? How difficult of a decision was to run this lineup that you started with?
It was honestly, it was a difficult decision. I was mulling it over and processing it before we even came into the week. I had sort of a plan going into this week based off of the travel from the short turnaround is going to be on both ends. The travel from LA to Columbus a little longer, the days longer. The guys are recovering from the last game. We're going into a long week. I felt like we had some guys who were, in the end, they felt great, which was tough to leave them out, because there's a lot of guys who I left out who wanted to play and they felt like they were ready to play. But we have 4 games in 10 days that we're trying to also manage, and some guys have had little knocks or things that they've been managing over the course of time. And so I also need to see what some of our other guys can do for us, and how they're going to contribute to this team during this stretch. And so my calculation was this was going to be the longer of the 2 travels, the less amount of time to kind of recover just because of the travel and everything. And we'll have a shorter trip. Tomorrow is just a 1-hour hop over to DC. We'll have a day to train. It's the same amount of time, but just not the same length of travel per se. I knew Columbus was going to be a team that is good with the ball. Wilfred's teams are always good with the ball, so it was going to be some defensive work inside of this. So I was trying to also kind of manage our group going into the weekend. So we'll try to put the best team together we can for the weekend, and we'll look to take some points or take something out of DC, and then come back and prepare for the next one. So the other challenge was we had some momentum in terms of the last 2 results, and so it became a challenge too, as you're managing a plan that you're doing unemotionally before the trip starts, and then when you win, then your emotion is, okay, I want to stick with this group and put them back out there. But so that's where the calculation becomes a little bit difficult. But then I also we're at the beginning of a long stretch of games, and I don't want to put anybody at risk at the beginning of this process, because we have a longer process still on the other end here.
Mm-hmm. And you say you want to see guys that we really hadn't seen this much this season. So what did you like out of? I mean, Efra was out there for pretty much longer than he's been in recent times. What do you think about his night? And who else was out there? Yuri was out there as well.
Yuri,
what do you
Danny,
think about those guys tonight?
Yeah, Yuri, Danny,
Yep.
Eric. I think with Efra, he can get us out of some situations. There still needs to be more danger inside of what he does on the attacking end. He can get us out of things in tight spaces and get the ball across the field and can hit some final passes, but sometimes in that wider position, just getting a threat behind or getting him into deeper areas doesn't happen as often. Danny, I think Danny always puts in a good, solid workman-like shift and has good moments. So I think, again, for him tonight was similar. Yuri was in a tough scenario. I don't think Yuri necessarily did anything wrong. I just think we were so stretched out in the midfield from the way we were defending in the first half. He just was left with so much space to cover, and that's not his strength. His strength is about game reading, and when it's in tight spaces, he gets into tackles, he recovers balls for us, and he keeps the game simple. And because we were stretched out, he was having to cover a lot of territory, and that's why I came with Mark, because Mark's a little bit more of a guy who can cover some territory, and if we needed to step out, Mark could step out a little quicker. But I think Yuri, just inside of this particular game, it wasn't set up in a good way for him, because again, we were too opened up. And Eric, by and large, I think there was some solid moments. I think he's got a foul, and the one that leads to the second goal. But in general, I thought it was a fine performance. So, but again, I think all the guys are fine. It's just a matter of collectively we were too far apart defensively, and that exposes everybody because that's not where we want to be when we're defending as a group.
Thanks for your time.